Hi guys, this is Gizmo and it's finally time for me to make another video. This is going to be an introduction to the Top-Kek mod that I've just made, but it's mostly going to be a collection of fixes that you can make to your automation export files when your car is broken in BeamNG. This is going to be mostly useful for semi-truck that you want to make into useful truck that can actually old trailers in Beam or very large limousine, but it's also going to work for other broken vehicles, whether they are my own mods or someone else's mods also. Now I've heard in the comments of my previous video that I'm sometimes a bit hard to follow, so in order to try and keep things simple without leaving out information, I'm gonna decide that this time around I would actually fix vehicles in the video, so I'm going to be making the steps in the video instead of just explaining them. And I'm also going to segment the video into separate parts, which you can see in this table of content here with the timestamp, so you can jump ahead if you're not here to see the whole thing. Finally, if you're scared to change your automation files because you think it's going to be too complex and you're a bit scared, don't be, because I myself am really bad at that kind of thing and I could not learn to program to save my own life. So if I, with the help of Innocent Joker from Discord, was able to find the source of those problems and find their solution and compile them in a list of steps for you to use to fix your own creation, if I was able to do all of this, then you should be able to use this video to fix your own creation, no problem. So give yourself a chance and don't give up too easily. So first, in automation, you will find the Top-Kek mod at 1978. It unlocks in 1978. It has a bunch of different families inside of it, and in short, there's an industrial truck, a shortened version for silly pickup that are at least a little less silly than the ones from the industrial full wheelbase version, a smaller SUV size, a very silly triple stretch limousine, and an even sillier two-seater hatchback. And each of these have two different sizes. One is 13% bigger than the other, so there's one that's basically the size of a moving truck, and the other is the size of a full-size semi-truck. Now all of these mainly work like a basic normal automation mod, except for one party trick that I'm going to show very soon. And I've picked the industrial one because two of these trucks have actually a bunch of hidden stuff in them, hidden morphs that I need to show you. So first I'm going to pick whichever engine, I don't care. Now for the morphs, the party trick that each of these cars has is a morph specifically dedicated to ride height. So, and you're going to need to move it multiple times to reach the top. But you're going to do something like this if you want to make a monster truck, for example, or you can pull it super down and make some kind of very strange lowrider if you want. It's there, it can be used. That's pretty much something that I don't think was ever done before, so it's going to be funny. Then when it comes to the hidden morphs, they're all in the box truck and the utility truck, so I'm going to show them right now. There's this one which is funny. It's not really hidden, but it's funny if you want to make a garbage truck. I'm going to remove this one first in order to focus on the hidden morph handles. So there's one here that unlocks the sleeper cab, which you can then morph at different height, and say if you want it to be longer, you can make it longer. But to make it appear, you need this morph target here. I'm going to pull that right back, and then if I put this in the shape of a flatbed, and then I would see the fifth wheel. But if you don't want the fifth wheel, you want just a flatbed, then you grab the second morph handle and you can hide that too. So and then there's all sort of other morphs that you can use. This one's to make it narrower in the back. The rest of it you can probably find on your own. It's all like normal stuff that you'd expect it works just like in a normal automation mod. The other truck that has hidden morphs would be the utility truck, which is this one. So this one is still the sleeper cabin, but there's more in this one. So there's one that's turning it into a dump truck, and again the dump truck has its own morphs on it. One that completely removes the side to make a flatbed. Another one here that turns the tip of the flatbed more like a tow truck. Just going to reset it real quick. So 1, 2, the third one is, yeah, the third one pulls out a cement mixer one. Then there's one, yes, this one is for tanker again. It's got its own morph if you want to change it in different ways. Just going to pull it back in. They're kind of hard to see, so you need to pay attention. This one is the tarp truck. And I think that's it. So these are the different morphs that you can find on this truck. The rest of these, like this pickup, this extremely silly, very long pickup, all of the morphs are pretty much normal. Now in the fixtures, I've got a bunch of stuff that I've added for trucks specifically. In indicators, you can find these, which can be useful for decorating a truck or making those bars at the back with brake indicators and brake light indicators and reverse lights. In vents, I've got these things here, which are air filters. And some of them come with blinkers in them pre-built. Do I have something in scoop? No, it's not there. In windows, I've got a big family of different RV parts, like these windows and this door. For the sake of simplicity, you can put the window back to glass, or you can leave it transparent if that's what you want. And I've got a bunch of these, and even one of those bubbles that can be opened from the top. So these are the RV parts. And do I have anything in 3D? No. In the fuel cap section, I've got an entire family of side fuel tanks, which is this one here. We've got round or square, with or without steps, or the steps separately. This is modular, so you need to make it on your own. So say I want to put this here, but I want it to be big. Oh no, it's ruining the size of the steps, so I'm going to put this here. And then I'm going to go and put it on 3D, so I can reliably slide them back and forth and keep them right. Flip this. Now I'm able to cap the side. Then I'm going to copy it on the side again. This time I'm going to put a middle section, which I'm going to scale because I want the fuel tank to reach further for some reason. I'm going to grab the original again, scale that all the way back, copy that all the way back, cap it again. I'm going to copy the cap, bring it in the middle, and look for, I think it's this one. Yes, so this is the strap that holds the fuel tank, so you can put the strap wherever you want. You can use it to hide the seams between the parts. And finally, you're going to look for the first one, which is the cap. And you can replace it in 3D if you don't like it being perfectly at the top. And there's different types of steps. Basically, I'm gonna let you explore that on your own, but as you can see, you can make these intricate, complex side fuel tanks with this. Also got these kind of steps for whenever you want to not use the indent part of if you want to make it like basically like this. So I've got this family there. In body molding, I've got a bunch of things. First things is this wind deflector family. Like in my pop-up mods, I've got variants that deforms and other variants that don't. No, I don't. I didn't do that. I'm going to have to add that now. Or actually, I don't need to. I just need to pop them into 3D and then they don't deform anymore. I have to remember that this 3D thing is making it so much simpler for modders like myself. So into 3D mode I can place this, and I'm gonna leave them in conforming so that they can move around if you end up using them on a truck that's a bit rounder. So yeah, you can put wind deflectors now in order to match the size of the back if the back was higher. I've also got some loadout families here, so in case you want, you could turn someone else's mod into a box truck. There's a box truck with the overhang, tarp truck, concrete, dump truck, flatbed towing, tanker. All of this is inside of this family, so you can use that on other people's truck in order to transform them into something else. And I've also done this with pickup beds, so you can turn someone else's semi-truck into a silly pickup too. And I've got shorter ones, different size of wheel arches, and a middle segment in case you need to stretch it for longer. I don't know, it's there, you can use that. Finally, I say finally, but I'm not done yet. I've also got a family of large bumpers. I've got trapezoid one, those that some are flat, some come out a bit. I'm gonna let you explore those. Nothing in badges. In exhaust, I've got my biggest family, which is the modular stack exhaust. So I've got a bunch of different stack exhausts. Some don't connect with the truck on the side, some do. So in different occasions that can be useful. For example, I could go like this. So now I've got this side exhaust that comes on the side, but if I wanted, for whatever reason, if I wanted to be higher, but I don't want to stretch it, because if I stretch it I'm gonna deform the tip, then I would put it up, or I would just like find the tip of it, like this one, which does not connect. Put it in 3D, bring it wherever I want. Then I would look for one that is just a pipe. So that would be the flat top that does not connect. It would be this one. So I'm copying this here, switch it for the flat top, and then I can bring it higher. And if I need to, I can stretch the flat top, but since it's just a cylinders, it's not going to affect its shape at all. So that's there, that can be used. And it also contains, just make a copy through it, it also contains a bunch of different families of heat shields, like this one where the holes are spaced, or well, I can only find one type. There. So this one has vertical holes, this one has holes closer together. I also got ones that uses the normal automation grills. So all of this is there, ready to be explored. In MISC, did I put anything in MISC? Yes, in MISC I have steps which are separate from the tank family that you need to place in 3D. So say if I went and did this, I could use these steps instead. I've got a bunch of them. And finally, I also got sun visors. Forgot almost forgot those. So got these truck sun visors that you can put. Is that all? I think the only thing left is the fifth wheel, so in case you want to make something else into a semi-truck, you could use that. But as you can see, there's a warning on it that says it's not gonna work in Beam unless you put a normal hitch through it, because it does not have the programming necessary for a node, an attachment node, to be added. And this is the end of all of the fixtures that I've added in order to make cool truck possible in automations. Right, now it's time to introduce you to the vehicles we're going to be fixing during this video. First, we've got the Talonner Eruption, which is a semi-truck that I've made. At first glance, it doesn't look all that broken. In fact, if you turn to full steering lock, it doesn't even lose its wheels. But the input is inverted, so if I turn right, it's actually turning left. So from experience, I can tell you that this steering is not just inverted, it's actually more broken than if the wheels were to fall off. If it's too broken, it's actually flipping the input in back and forth. But the good thing is at least the wheels don't fall off when it flips backward. But it's not the only problem that we have, because if I put this thing in reverse and I need to inverse steer my way to the trailer here. If I try to go under the trailer, it tries to go underneath, but there's kind of an invisible wall that stops it. And I'm going to show you what that is. So first I'm going to go to the T-Series here and show you what happens if I go and do this and turn on simple visualizations. Then we see a perfectly sensible and reasonable collision mesh appear, which is basically just a simpler version of the car's shape that the game uses to calculate the physics and the collision, which is the same truck just made in an ugly, invisible version that the game keeps hidden from us as we're driving around. And it looks sensible, it follows the shape right, everything is okay with this. But obviously, the automation exporter does a bit of a mess. So if I turn the visualizations onto this truck and I start to go explore around, there. First off, we see invisible shapes where there shouldn't be. There's a big cobweb that tries to connect to the blinkers on the top of this the window for no reason. This entire top section has no collision at all, not inside, not outside. We've got another cobweb on the side, and the big problem really comes right here in the back. As you can see, we've got two invisible horns in the back, and that is a collision mesh that stops us from going under the trailer. This is why we just cannot connect to that trailer. It's because these things are blocking our way. And even if we could get there, if we start turning and the corner of the trailer reaches in this area here where it's sloping down, that's a collision mesh too. It would try to lift the corners of the trailer as it reaches in here. So all of this is broken, and we need to change that with a program I'm going to use in the node section of the video. And obviously there's other things to reinforce so that an automation car that automation thinks is no more than a pickup truck is actually able to withstand the weight and stress of dragging a multiple 1,000-ton trailer behind it. Finally, the other vehicle that we're going to look at today is this very long limousine. Come on, BeamNG, let me... there. And it is even more broken. From the start, you can see that we've got those invisible spikes in the front and in the back. Worst yet, if you go near the floor here, we've got some collision that actually goes under the wheels, making it perfectly impossible for the car to drive because the wheels aren't even touching the ground. We've got a bunch of collision things stretched under the floor, all the way almost to the floor. So this thing looks like it's got at least a foot of clearance, but it actually got like a few inches, if not less than that. Obviously, in this case, the wheels are completely broken. The collision of the wheels have these spikes coming outside of them. And when you go inside here, underneath, we can see that the suspension and the entire front axle is completely collapsed, like if there's a black hole that opened. And all of the springs are broken, like the pieces aren't where they should be at all. In the back, and that's new to me, that wasn't in my test car, I've also got a rear axle and suspension that stretches beyond the car. So that's another thing that I hope is fixable in the same way as the front, because I have to fix it now in this video. And this is the introduction to the vehicle that we need to fix. Now on to the actual work. So it's time to get into the bulk of this video, which is the tutorial part. And the first section is how to work with an Unpacked mod. So basically, in my first video on how to fix the braking steering wheels of certain cars, I explained a working method, but it's inefficient and very time consuming. And this method, if you don't already know about it, is extremely efficient in order to save time while you're adjusting the files of a broken vehicle. So how this works is you're going to basically you're just going to place the file in a way that BeamNG will let you change the files and reload them in the game without having to constantly put them back into a zip file and restarting the game. So first things first, you're going to pick the cars that you want to modify. In this video, I need to change my truck detailer eruption and the limousine prom queen triple stretch. So I'm going to copy them. I'm going to paste them on my desktop just as a backup, just to make sure that in case something goes wrong, I have the original somewhere. Then I'm going to remove them. So I'm going to cut and go inside of this folder called Unpack. If you don't have it, just make it. That's it. Then you're going to go inside, put the vehicles here and extract them to their own folder. Got a triple stretch here, the eruption here. Going to delete these files because I don't need them anymore. And that's pretty much it. Then you can go inside, look at those files, change them and save them, and even if the game is already running and the car is loaded in a level, then you can reload the vehicle using the shortcut Control R, and it's going to apply the changes that you've just made to the car, so you can check if it works and then go back and make more changes. That's pretty much all I have to say about this, and the reason I'm not testing it right now is because I'm going to test it in the next section where I recap about how to fix the steering factor. So now it's time to look back and recap how to fix the steering problem with the steering factor. So, and that's something I'm only going to do on the semi-truck because, well, as you've seen earlier, the limo is too broken to fix that right now. So I'm going to go inside of my BeamNG mod folder, in the Unpack folder that we've just moved and unpacked our mod earlier. Tanner eruption, that's this one. So I'm going to go inside. By the way, my game is still running, just pointing that out. And I'm going to go inside of vehicle, truck name. Let me just put the view to detail because I find it easier to work with. So near the bottom you find the suspension front.jbeam file, which you're going to open with NotePad++. And then once you're inside, you're going to scroll all the way down to the second to last paragraph, the paragraph named Hydros. And you're going to find this section here where it says factor. There's one on this line, one on this line. And right now it's at 0.5 and minus 0.5. If the steering were to break with the wheels falling off, you'd make the value lower. But right now the problem we have with this truck is that the steering is inverted, so I'm going to remove the minus from the second value and put it in front of the first value instead. I'm going to click save, and since the mod is unpacked and running right now in the game, I can just go back to the game, and using the shortcut Ctrl R, I'm going to reload the car from the file. There. So now the steering should go the right way around. So if I turn right, the car turns right. But it doesn't turn all that much. So I'm going to do some tuning here. I'm going to go back to NotePad++, and I'm going to increase that value to, say, 0.7 and minus 0.7. Save. I'm gonna let the game find its bearing again. There. Ctrl R, reload from file again. It doesn't turn all that much more. This car is a truck that needs to navigate quickly around, well, tightly around corners, especially because of the trailer. So I'm going to go and try to bump that up by a bunch. So let's say I go 0.0 and I actually go to 1 here, 1.0 instead of 0.7. Ctrl R again, and as you can see, I can make test version almost immediately. It's a bit better, but not much. What if I went all the way to 1.5? Would that be too much? Let the game find its bearing again. Ctrl R, reload from file. Ah, it's too much. Now you can hear the steering brake. So I need to go just a tad under that. So let's say 1.3. And of course the values are going to change depending on what truck or what configuration you use. So don't just copy the values I'm using. You're going to have to do some tests on your own anyway. That's still a bit too much. Or is it? I'm going to check. What if I reload a second time? No, it's really broken. Okay. So 1.2. Can I get away with 1.2? Ah, come on. .1 then, or am I really stuck with just 1.0? Damn it. I guess that's as much as we can get, so we'll do with this. But that is how we fix the steering with the steering factor. And as you can see, using an Unpacked mod is a lot faster, since we don't need to close the game and reopen each time to make sure that the game is loading the correct files, and we don't need to repack them into zip files like I did in the previous video. So that's a lot faster, and we're ready to go to the next section of the video. Now it's time to go and work on the fact that there are invisible collisions stopping us from going in under the trailer. So again, leaving the game working, I'm going to go down here into my folder for the truck in the Unpack section of my mod folder, in vehicle where all of the files are, and I'm going to go and start a third-party program called NoteBeam Editor. The link for this program is going to be in the description. You're just going to install it in a folder somewhere. Normally you go inside here into bin and you look for is that the right bin? Two bins. You look for BeamNG editor.exe to start it. Me, I've made a shortcut IR to find it easier. So I'm going to start it, and now what you need to know about this third-party program is that it's severely outdated and only small pieces of it are still working. And since I'm not a programmer, I only know the very small portion of it that I need. So what you're going to go for in your mod folder is find the file that's the name of the car.jbeam. So this is engine. This is not the JBeam file. Calendar eruption JBeam. So I'm going to open this here, and the only thing we get is the horrible collision mesh. Now I don't really need to touch anything in the front. The part that I need to change the most is the rear. So I'm going to go and select, grab those two in the rear, which basically are the spikes that stop us from getting under the trailer. Click move. I'm going to lower them right there. In fact, I think I made the right height of this truck a bit too high. So if I'm able to just grab the collision of the top here, it move, then lower it just a bit. This cannot hurt. Okay, select, grab the species, these two nodes here that make up the slope that shouldn't exist, move, and again I'm going to lower it till it's flat with the floor, and then oh, the arrow is green on green, hard to see. I'm going to pull it back here so it's roughly where the rest of the things start. So we've got a flat wall, or at least, well, this slope is inside the cabin. So actually, while we're here, select, I need just those two, move, and I might as well, oh god, why do you do such a bad job? Okay, this is using a little more of the space, so I guess that's fine. That's fine for now. So these are the changes that we need to do. I'm going to deselect this, and now it's important to have this window open here. It's open by default, I'm pretty sure. I'm going to hit refresh, so the changes I made in the 3D vision is going to be applied to the code, and automatically, yep, this broke the vision of the truck here. And oh, wait, that's not normal. Oh, never mind. Okay, it's fine. For a moment I thought everything broke. Now I need to go into the node section and copy the text because I cannot save. If I save, I corrupt the file. So I just need to find the piece that I need and copy it into the other file manually. Props. It's supposed to be near the top. Flex body, nodes. Okay, so I'm going to grab from the start of the node here, and I'm going to go right where the engine nodes start. Engine, there. So, and then I'm going to copy, leave this open, don't save, very important. Go back to the same file that you opened in the program and instead open it in NotePad++. Then you're going to find the exact same part you just did. Props, flex body, node, and make the exact same selection you did in the program. All the way to engine, right there, and paste. Now you've replaced the original file's values with the ones from NBE, but you did not do it with NBE. You used the code from NBE into NotePad++ instead of saving, which would have otherwise corrupted the file. So now if I go into Beam, hit Control R to reload the car from the file, I should technically be able to drive under this truck. There you go. I can now drive under the truck. Under the trailer, I mean. By the way, I'm very sorry about using an inline engine from automation for this truck. It sounds very out of place. But anyway, let's see exactly what happened. If I go to debug and I start the visualization, why do I say it's so weird? Anyway, now you can see that all of these extra things that should not have been there are gone. They're no longer here. So that's why I can drive under the truck. Now is a good moment to point out that I've made a grave mistake while designing this truck. That is, I forgot to put a tow hitch right here. There should be a tow hitch right here. This means I'm gonna have to stop recording, modify the truck, refix the steering values, and come back to here. Alright, I'm gonna do that and come right back. And we're back, but at this point this truck is ready to move to the next step, and since I need to keep things segmented properly, I need to go over all the things I have to say about node editing before I move to the next step, and that means moving to this enormous limousine and changing the nodes that needs to be changed. So the first thing I'm going to do is basically the same thing I did with the truck, edit the collision mesh for the body. So that means I'm going to start BeamNG fresh. That's important. Restart it fresh each time. I think it's important because it's so broken you might as well do that to make sure that everything still works fine as far as I understand it. So I need to find the prom queen triple stretch and go inside it. That's inside of the unpack folder, by the way, that we unpacked this vehicle earlier. So I'm going to go and once again, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to turn this to detail. And I need to find the J-beam that contains the name of the car, prom queen triple stretch J-beam. I'm going to open this, and we're basically doing the same thing as we did with the truck here. One thing to mention is that the near clipping plane of the camera in this program is very short. In mere mortal words, that means it kind of cut the front whenever you get close to it. Same thing with the back. So if you want to see anything, it has to be in the center of this grid. And how you do this in this program is you make sure you have numeral lock on, and then you can use the number pad to move around. So to go forward, you hit 4, to go back, you hit 6. Then left and right is going to be 8 and 2, and 7 and 9 goes up and... oh, wait, no. 1 and 7 go up and down. So, yeah. Right now I'm going to start by selecting some stuff, and this is obviously broken because it's under the ground and it shouldn't be. Gonna move to the front here. I think it's shift that I have to hold to select things without deselecting, and yes, it is. Alright. Now time to go back. It's a long, long boy. There, I think this is fair. Oh, there's stuff I selected on the inside. Is it control? No, I've messed up. Okay, maybe I wasn't meant to select anything while I was in this view. Sorry, let me just redo that real quick. That's fair, and I didn't select anything inside. That's okay. And I'm going to hit move, lift it, say I think here. I think that's okay. I'm gonna remove my selection, hit refresh again. Did it refresh? I guess it did. Last time it took a while to reload all of the text. Glow map, props, flex body, and node is under flex body again. I'm going to make the selection of the beginning of nodes all the way to where the engine starts, just like we just did with the truck. Control C, put this aside, go inside of the file with NotePad++, this file, and under flex body I'm going to select the same thing I just did, paste, save, sorry, and now we can go back inside of BeamNG and test if anything changed. By the way, you got to appreciate how far this limousine's default camera is. It's kind of ridiculous. This is not gonna do miracles because it's the first thing to fix on a long list for this thing to work. It's very broken, this limousine. Can I have some visualization, please? Okay. Control R to reload. Oh, I didn't change these spikes. I should have done that. Right. So I think the rest of it is inside of the suspension parts, because this is still very much on the floor. And the wheels still can't touch the ground. So we need to move on to the next thing. But I'm still gonna just fix those spikes real quick before I go to the next thing, but not on camera. Well, as it turns out, the spikes weren't even part of the body, it was something else, so we're going to move on to the next step, which is to change the nodes again, but not with the body. This time we're going to go to the suspension. So I'm going to open BeamNG once more, put it on the side, and go and look for suspension front, and break that into BeamNG. And yeah, those are the spikes I saw on the roof, or on the hood actually. So these things shouldn't be there, they should be here. I'm gonna also grab everything underneath. I keep forgetting to hit select first because other programs don't need to do that. You can select and move at once. I'm going to bring this up. Yeah, might as well. I know it worked all the way up to here, so I'm going to do exactly that. So this should fix the car not touching the ground. The thing in the top should fix the spikes on the hood. And now, as you probably remember, all of the pieces of the front axle were collapsed together, like a mini black hole was opening in the front, in the middle of it, and everything crumpled up in a ball. I don't know why it does that. Even Innocent Joker didn't know. But we found that in order to fix this, even if it doesn't make sense, we're just going to select all the pieces of the front suspension, hit scale, and scale it sideways just a tiny bit. Say like this, I think. That should be enough. I don't know why it works, but it worked last time, so let's see. Refresh. Visualization broke. That's fine. As long as the piece of the code that we need to extract still works, I'm fine with that. So again, flex body. This time there are a bunch less sections here because there's no fixtures on the suspension, so already all the way to the top, flex bodies, and then nodes. We need the nodes. So I'm going to select. I'm just going to be careful to select all the way to the end of what I need. This time around there's no engine because obviously the car has an engine but the suspension doesn't. So I'm going to stop at this hook right here before the section change to something else. So it's node there. You can see that this is the end of the node section, so it's the entire section. Control C, go to the suspension front file opened with NotePad++. Again, go to node, make the same selection, and replace, like we did a bunch of times already. Just want to make sure that I did that correctly. Yeah, the hook is there. Save. I'm going to close the other ones since I'm done with them. And let's see what that did for our car here in BeamNG. Control R. This is promising. Let's have a look underneath. Yeah, as you can see, it's not perfect, but right now at least, I'm going to try to put myself in a good angle, at least we can see an axle where the axle should be. Now what happens if I try to steer? It doesn't steer at all. It's probably still broken. Let's reload this to see. Wow! The new tire physics. That's up close and personal with the new tire physics on a vehicle that's actually weighing 25.9 tons. Anyway. The engine's not dying anymore. That's a thing. If I go in gear, yeah, the steering is broken. But the car is able to inch forward now. Also, now I understand the problem with this. It's connected to the wrong thing. Anyway. So, we need to start from oil. What? Okay. Also, this is weird. Oh, by the way, yes, now we can see that fixing the lower node of the front suspension did actually lifted the collision mesh that made the wheel not touch the ground, so that's fixed. Back is still very much exploding. Now it's time for experiments. I'm going to do the same thing for the back, but I'm going to try to make it wider, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to try making it slimmer, because it's actually having the opposite problem. Let's do that right now. So I'm going to close this, lower that, open this anew, go to suspension rear, again we've got these weird spikes in the top that you might not have. I didn't have that in the first car. This is my first test for this limousine. Leave this here, just below the middle. Select everything, and actually no, scale. I'm curious to try slimmer first. Let's go a bit slimmer first. Since the problem is reversed, that's probably what you need to do. Refresh, find the nodes, all the way to the end hook before rail. Copy, gonna close this. Suspension rear, open with NotePad++. Make the selection again, identically. Paste, save. And now we go in BeamNG and we see if that did anything good. Control R to reload. Oh, that's promising. The rear suspension is looking actually quite good compared to what it used to be. Everything looks to be in its place. So I was right. Re-inverted problem, inverted solution. Do we have any steering at all? No, it's completely broke. But can we drive? Not much. I think we're going to need to reinforce the suspension too later on. But at least now the car is touching the ground. So I'm going to try and make the steering rack even wider. Close this. Once again, open BeamNG fresh. Going to go to front suspension. Select everything. Scale. Just a bit wider. Just a bit. If you go too far, it's going to explode. Refresh. Go back all the way up. Why does it go all the way back down? Nodes. To the end hook here. Control C. Front suspension, open in NotePad++. Make the same selection, paste, save. Back into BeamNG. And Control R. we have some steering. Right, so I've done a bunch of investigating and I found the solution to some of my problems. Basically, it's easier to make a limousine with a high ride height rather than a low ride height. Basically, as you can see here, I've got the steering working. It's working in a very weird, strange way, but at least it's working. And the reason why it's working after the changes that I've already showed you is because all of this is under the car and it's not interacting with the inner part. But if I go to this car here that we're working on right now, the reason why it was braking, well, it's still braking, but I think it's because of the suspension right now. The reason why the engine was constantly starving from oil is because the suspension nodes were interacting with the engine. So if you're making it low like this, what you need to do is grab the nodes on the top of the suspension nodes and lower them like you did with the lower one being risen up. So you lower the top and you rise the bottom so that the low one don't interact with the floor and the top one aren't breaking the engine. And that's what you need to do. Now I don't need to copy it again because, well, I've shown you all to do this a bunch of time already and it's already been applied here. This is why this car is no longer starving from oil. So the next part would be to fix the suspension and the spikes in the wheels, which actually needs to be fixed right now because these are nodes. Okay, so that's the next step. Fixing the collision cones that comes out of the wheels. I'm going to reduce this, reopen once again BeamNG anew. And now I've got to do this on both the front and rear wheels J-beam. So front wheel J-beam. I'm going to open this and you're going to see that there's only... Where are they? There. There's only those two lines here that signify the center of the wheels. So I'm going to move myself with number 4 here. It's like this. It scale. Move this away from the center. Then select this, shift, select this, scale, move these closer to the center. You got to do this by eye, but I think this is fine. Refresh. Then again, node. Is this it? Yeah, node. Select everything until the end of... Wait. Oh, that's the thing. Node is very small in the wheel J-beam. It's only from here up to here. Control C. Go inside of your car's front wheel J-beam. Edit with NotePad++. Node again. Same selection. There. Save. Go to BeamNG. Let the game find its bearing again. Control R. And the center of the wheel is actually no longer poking out. Same thing under if things went well, and yes, the collision mesh of the wheel is now fixed. Did that do anything to the steering? Not much. Do I actually have a new problem that I did not have on my test vehicle? I'm going to need to investigate while the engine is starving, even when the car is upright. Anyway, I'm just going to take a little break from recording in order to fix the rear wheel, and I'll be back right after. Now, the last thing to look at when it comes to Node Edition is this weird problem where the body deforms when you steer the wheels in the front. And I found out that this is due to a problem with the node position in the extremity of the car. So if I go here in BeamNG, inside of the car's J-beam, you can see that there's a red area here where polygons are flipped backward in this mesh. So what I'm going to do is try at least to remove this triangle from being from bridging the gap around the wheel passage, so that it doesn't try and break the car's geometry. We also have the same problem in the back here, so I'm going to fix that as well, like this. And while we are at it, there is these light pieces here, these fixtures which jiggles when you load in BeamNG. So what I'm going to do is grab the body node on which they are attached and move this in between so they have less distance and they should jiggle less. And in order to fix the collision in the front of the car, I'm going to take advantage of these two nodes and stretch them sideways so they take the entire front, and that should be enough. So the only part left is refresh, and then selecting the nodes section here, putting it back inside of the J-beam for the car, and then because I've already done it, now you can see that turning the wheel no longer breaks the shape of the body. So I'm going to move on to the next thing that needs to be done on this vehicle, and that is full speed ahead. The fact that this is pretty much the speed limit on this car. On reverse it's okay, but if you go forward you're not revving like at all, like it dies roughly here. This is the top speed. So in order to fix this, I'm going to go in the engine, and there are two ways that I know of that can fix this. The first one is reducing engine friction. So you're going to find this section here. So you Control F friction and you look for this paragraph that starts with rev limiter of some option, blah blah blah, and you get friction and dynamic friction. So you can reduce this, and maybe also reduce the inertia here. But in my case that wasn't the problem. So I removed all of the changes that I made and went back to the original values. My problem in this case was the speed limiter. So I'm just going to put speed inside of the Control F window. I'm going to look for the speed limiter. This top speed limit is 1.1 meters per second, which even for meters per second, is very, very low. So it's pretty much the speed we've been seeing in the game. What I suggest you doing is going on. So what I suggest you do is go in automation, find the top speed that the car is supposed to have, and then convert this to meters per second on Google or something. In my case, it should be 39.56. Save. And now if I go back to BeamNG, Control R, now the speed limiter has been fixed. Now before we go and fix the suspension of the limousine, it's time to go and look a bit at the truck and figure out what its next problems are. So first things first, last time we saw this truck, we fixed the collision in the back and we're now able to drive underneath the trailer. So it's time to connect and see what's what. First things first, there is a mode to connect a trailer with a truck in BeamNG. When you press the shortcut L, kind of pops up this ball over the nodes, but for some reason with me that has never worked. Also, this truck is a bit too high. Oh, I would need to adjust this later on. But as you can see, it's just not connecting. But I do have a different tactic to manage to attach a trailer to an automation truck, and I'm going to show it to you right now. So first things first, not using the L shortcut. Now what I'm going to do is put myself in free camera and make sure that the truck is on the parking brake. Now I'm going to get to here, hold Control and grab the node of the hitch. I'm going to reduce the strength of my node to 0 because I don't want to pull the truck around, I just want to hold that node. Now what I'm going to do is hold the second button of the mouse without letting go of the first. So I'm going to hold both buttons at the same time, so I'm holding the node and I'm rotating the camera around at the same time. I'm going to use the buttons I have mapped for the free camera so that I'm going to navigate underneath the trailer while still holding that node. Once I'm here, I'm going to release the right button, but I'm going to keep the left button pressed. So now I'm holding the node, but I'm no longer rotating the camera. At this point, I'm going to hold Control again in order to make the node pop up. I'm going to go through that node here, and I'm going to click with the middle click of the mouse so that the nodes become connected. So now the nodes are coupled, but it's not exactly like the trailer being hitched on the truck yet. So I'm going to move back a little, and what I'm going to do is hold down the brake, release the parking brake of the truck, and then gently letting it roll back. With my previous truck, this would cause problem because I was hitting here. I'm going to give a bit of gas in reverse, but not much. Very slowly going back down under until the truck is in the right place. I'm just going to pop inside here and see if the nodes are getting close. This is really hard to see. Okay, at this point, there you go. The truck is connected now. As you can see, it's a bit heavy for this truck right now. The truck is designed in automation, so The weight it's supposed to support is not 25.8 ton like this tasty cola trailer is. But still, we are connected now, so let's drive around and see how that goes. Now I'm regretting not putting a low range on this. Okay, never mind. Maybe I need a smaller trailer for this. Right, finally found a configuration that my truck is able to pull in its current state. Barely, but if I'm lucky, I'm going to be able to replicate the problem I had with the test truck. So I'm going to be driving around and pulling turns, hoping the problem shows up. It doesn't seem to be showing up. Try to gain a bit of speed. Ah, there you go. I got a bit of this problem, just enough to show you. I'm going to go back in free camera. As you can see, I've been driving it only a bit, and while pulling turns now the trailer is not in line with the truck anymore. That's because the position of the hitch is being dragged, it's being deformed and pulled sideways. So if you want to be reliably transporting a large amount of cargo in BeamNG, the first thing you need to do is reinforce the automation hitch, because the automation hitch is obviously not designed for large loads. So first things first, I'm going to detach that cargo, and if the L shortcut does not work to attach the trailer, it does at least work to detach the trailer. So to reinforce the hitch, you have to go first inside of your Unpacked folder for that truck. So it's this one. I'm going to go inside and look for the file, the JBeam that contains the name of the car, so Talner Eruption JBeam. Open in NotePad++, and I'm going to Control F and search for tow, which is right here. Normally you'd find it, you'd start searching from the start, and there's this section here which we're going to ignore for now, and the second section should be the right one, or at least if you only have one tow bar you're going to be able to find it in the second section, but if you look around it should look a bit like this. I don't know exactly where it's going to end up since it's a fixture, so it can be higher or later in the list, so I can tell you exactly around where to start looking. So that's where you're going to use Control F to find it. But once you've got it, you're going to go here, and in the second paragraph underneath it you've got beam spring and beam demp. So I'm going to double the values, so that's 1.5 million. I'm going to turn that into 3 million, and the beam demp is going to go from 150 to 300. I'm going to save this, go back into BeamNG, and Control R. That's weird and unnecessary. Okay, fine. If I hit Control and I look for the node, you're going to see that right here the node for the hitch is now way too high, and it's also shaking. That's because we've increased the strength at which it's held into place, but not its weight. and BeamNG does not like that. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to cycle through the Control F until I go back to the original section, the one we glossed over, the one we ignored originally, and you're going to find under it node weight, and I'm going to double that to 1. Actually, just for the sake of respecting decimal, I'm going to go with 1.0. Save, and now I'm going to reload and see if that fixed it. Oh, and it even fixed the fact that it broke other fixtures. And now the node is back to its original position, and it should be twice as strong now, so you should be able to carry loads much heavier without deforming its position. Finally, it's time to go to the last section of the video, which is beefing up the rear suspension of the truck so you're able to carry actual loads. So to do this, I'm going to go inside of the files of the truck, inside of suspension rear. I'm going to open it in NotePad++, and I'm going to go Control F and look for a section called coilover. It's this section here, Camso coilovers, and inside of the beam section you're going to find beam spring. You're going to make this stronger. So right now it's 72, so I'm going to go about twice, so 140. And then beam damp, I'm going to double this also. There's the beam damp here. It's 6. I'm going to go for 12. Then save, go back to BeamNG, Control R, and now the truck should be able to carry the load a lot easier. So I'm going to try this now. There you go. I could have beefed it up even more, but driving this thing is easier now. So this is now a fully working automation truck in BeamNG. Now this is pretty much the end of the video. If you're wondering what's going on with the limousine, there's still something breaking inside of it. I don't know exactly what that is, but all in all of the parts are working even after it made a crashing noise. So if I kind of move in closer, you can see that the shape is retained, the axles are in their place. Now as for the limousines, there still is a crashing noise while you reload or loads the white limousine, but outside of that it's working and it's drivable, and things appear to stay in their place while you do so. So since I can't for the life of me find the source of the crashing noise, I'm just going to go and leave it at that. Then there's the red one with the higher ride height. That one works perfectly without crashing, so that's pretty good. And for what that is, and considering it's all coming from automation, it's already a miracle that I'm able to make these things work. So I'm going to leave them there. The very last thing that I need to mention in this video is that if you make a vehicle like this and you want to share it in the in the BeamNG website for the repository, then what you would need to do is go back into the Unpacked folder. Say for example you want to do it with the Talon eruption. You would copy the name of the folder, go inside, make a new zip file, paste the name, grab the content here, zip it, copy that zip file, go back into mod, paste it here, and then you'd go back into Unpack and delete this file here because you don't need it anymore and you don't want two different versions of the same mod in your game at once, or it's going to break. Then obviously you'd go on the BeamNG website and you'd find your file in the mod folder in order to export it, because you cannot export a file when it's unpacked. Aside from that, this has been a very long and tedious ride, but we're at the end of this extremely long and painful video. I hope there was a lot of things in this that will be helpful to you. And I'm going to take a break until I can do the actual showcase video, which I'm looking forward to. That's it. Goodbye.